Hello. Give me 1 second, Jamie. Let me get up in here.
Oh, she's on there.
Is she on there?
Yeah. Good afternoon, Jamie.
There you go.
Hi, Bam. It's nice to meet you. I
It's
feel
a
like I
pleasure
know
to
you.
meet
I've been
you.
watching your episodes.
We appreciate it. We appreciate it. There you go.
Hi, Bam. It's nice to meet you. Oh, I feel like I know you. I've been watching your episodes.
All right. So good afternoon, everybody. Today is what's the day? Oh, today is May 30th. Saturday, May 30th, Great Lakes Livecast. We're here with a very special guest. I'm Rap Sheet. This is Jamaican Shan. And we are here with a very, very special guest, you guys. We're here with a very special guest. That's too much feedback. And this is actual Dr. Jamie Mitchell. She's a professor from the University of Michigan. I just want to give her accolades and let people know that this is somebody that knows what they're talking about. This ain't just somebody we found, and this is an actual real person with a PhD. She has a PhD in social work from The Ohio State. She has a BA in psychology from The Ohio State, and she has an MSW, which is a Master of Social Work from the University of Tennessee. And it is considered the gold standard for entering her field. It's I'm so proud of you, and it's an honor
Oh,
to know you and have you on our podcast. So we appreciate
thanks for hyping me up.
it. So today, you guys, um, we want to talk about brain health in African Americans over the age of 50. So, and we want to know why it's more, why are we more likely to be affected by it than our white peers?
Yeah. Why is that?
So, the first question I got, Lucas Steve, what's up, Esmeralda Munez? We appreciate you joining in. The first question I have for you, Jamie, is what exactly is dementia?
Yeah, that's a great question. So dementia is a it's like an umbrella term, it's a big name for a lot of brain diseases that fall under that, right? So think of an umbrella and then all the different types of dementia are like the little raindrops underneath. But essentially it's a type of a brain disease, just like coronary artery disease. It's a type of heart disease, right? So it's a type of brain disease that is characterized by the fact that there is damage to the nerve cells in your brain. Those are called neurons, by the way. But they're really important for things like thinking, walking, talking, functioning in daily life. And so if they get damaged, your ability to do those things will progressively get damaged and, um, stop working as well, right? And so there are lots of different types of dementia. Alzheimer's is one of them, the most common type, but that's just one type. But essentially, it's a brain disease. Yeah.
So once the brain is damaged, there's no way to fix it, or is there any medication for it, or no?
So, dementia as the umbrella, and then all the different types of dementia underneath, like Alzheimer's disease, which is like the most common one. When people say, dementia, they're usually thinking about Alzheimer's disease. Um, as far as I know, as of today, there is no cure for Alzheimer's disease or for dementia.
It's a lab.
Yeah. Oh, I want to wait. I was like, I want to pause and make sure.
Oh yeah, we good.
So yeah, there's no, there's You get okay, sweet. There is no cure. There are ways to slow it down. There's certainly lots that you can do to prevent it, especially if you're on the side of it where you're like, hey, I'm thinking ahead about what I want to do to prevent this from happening or do my best to prevent it from happening. Once you're kind of on that train, it's going in that direction. Yeah.
Is there other any like um not just being forgetfulness or whatever like that? Is there any type of symptoms or anything that somebody should look out for or be cognizant of older people or myself? Is there things that we should
Yeah,
look out for as far as this?
absolutely. Oh, yeah. Everything has signs and symptoms, right? First, let me just say, because I know we'll probably talk about risk factors at risk for risk factor for developing dementia is just living long enough, just getting older, right? It Oh, sorry. Heard a little feedback. So it is. So it's incredibly common, but the issue is that it's common amongst folks typically over the age of like 70, 75, right? Like the risk goes up the longer you live, right? Because just like you begin to walk a little differently as you get older, other things stop working. The brain also builds up, some proteins and some things. Just things begin to deteriorate as you get older, and so that's just the biggest risk factor, right? But then when you ask, like, well, we'll get to the point about like why Black and Brown folks may have higher risk factors at earlier ages. But to your question about signs and symptoms, there are plenty. So things like um, forgetting things that you have learned and that you know that you know. And I'm not talking about normal aging. I set my keys down and I went to a room, forgot why I was there. We all do that as we get older, right? But I'm talking about things that you know, that you have learned, that you should have committed to memory, things like your children's names, right? How to get home, and to solve like basic problems. If you lose that ability or all of a sudden that becomes really difficult for you. If you're having trouble all of a sudden, with things like speaking and writing words that nothing new to you, and all of a sudden, I'm not talking about like, oh, I forgot the word for that, but like literally things that should be in your everyday language. Now you can no longer, locate that, you can't write it. Um, Things like decreased and poor judgment, not only things like falling, maybe being more susceptible to being scammed because, lots of older adults may fall into that category, but also things like hygiene. Right, like all of a sudden, you take care of yourself, you groom well, you like to get up,
Forget to
get
take
dressed, get
baths.
going,
Like
and
if
you
you
no
forget
longer.
to take baths,
Shit.
Listen, it's a struggle. Adulting is a struggle period. We all have moments, right? But I'm talking about like if folks are, all of a sudden falling off a cliff with, cognitively with the stuff that they used to do all the time and now they can't do it anymore, that's going to be an issue. Also, really stark changes in like your mood, your personality, and your behaviors. So all of a sudden you're suspicious, you are, bursts of anger, and that's not really who you've been. And now all of a sudden you got outbursts all the time, right? Or you're seriously depressed and it's like that. It's overnight, as opposed to it being something that, has built up over time. So lots of those things that family members or folks who are around you all the time tend to notice about you would clue them in to maybe have you assessed for something. Yeah.
so Jamie, is it hereditary? So if my mom has it, what's the chances that I will develop it?
That's a good question. So in research, we talk about variability, right? We talk about this concept of looking at all the people who have dementia, right? Who develop all types of dementia, big umbrella term dementia. What separates one person who gets dementia from the other person who gets dementia, right? And so what we know from, research over the past, generation or so, say 20 years or so, is that there's only genetics only contributes about 25% to that variability between any two people. So about a quarter, one little slice of the pie, 25%, we can definitely count to genetics. 75%, three-fourths, is going to be lifestyle. It's going to be stuff that we can do, that we do, that we can prevent, that we can change, that is actionable. So yeah, 25% is nothing to laugh at. So it's definitely there. If you have a
Yeah,
25% of
that's
getting
a big
something,
percentage.
that's
Right.
that's a
So
big percentage, right? But still, and still, it's not the it's the smallest piece of the pie. Yeah.
okay, so you got dementia and you got Alzheimer's. What's the difference?
So dementia is the big term that characterize, just like how we say cancer. But in reality, what we know is that there are gazillions of types of cancer: breast cancer, prostate cancer, stomach cancer, pancreatic cancer, right? So that's how we
Right.
say dementia. But in reality, there are different types of dementia, right? Alzheimer's disease is one type of dementia. It's the most common type, not the only type, but it's the most common type.
Okay, okay. I,
Yeah.
I have a question, Jamie, because I read this. I did a little bit of research, and it says that one of the causes of dementia is systemic socioeconomic disparities. So, what are they talking about when they say that?
Okay. So that's a big. Um, it's a big picture. When we talk about socioeconomic disparities, we're talking about the types of conditions in which people live, work, worship, play, hang out, that puts them at a disadvantage compared to people or communities that have more resources, right? And specifically more resources to be healthy, right? So, for example,
Like
if
that?
you are, growing up in a community that doesn't have a lot of healthcare centers, doesn't have a main hospital, right? Plenty of rural communities, also plenty of urban communities, right? If you're growing up in a community where you can't take really daily walks because either it's unsafe or there's no sidewalks, or it's too polluted outside, or whatever the case may be, right? You can't actually get the exercise that you need without having to like pay money and go to a gym or something like that. If you're living at a place that doesn't have good public transportation and you don't have a car, how are you going to get to the doctor, right? So all of those types of disadvantages around where you work, what kind of grocery stores are in your neighborhood accessible to you, all those things add risk, right? They also add
Wow,
stress. They add stress, right? They add stress and inflammation. Like it's expensive to be poor, it's stressful to be poor, right? And so if you are in those types of places, or if those are the conditions in which you
that
grew
ain't
up and
funny
it's
though,
hard
but
to
that's
get out.
big, Jamie. Like, it's
Yeah,
stressful
yeah.
to be poor. Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Stressful and expensive. Yes. Right. So those are the kinds of things that when you hear about, like, oh, socioeconomics is a risk factor for all these different types of diseases, including dementia. That's what they mean. They mean that,
Okay,
like, all of these conditions in which you're surrounded by, that are difficult to escape, put you at a disadvantage in this particular health outcome, and lots of other ones too, compared to folks who they got transportation, they live in a decent neighborhood, they got health insurance, they got a job or at least access to income, if they're worried about symptoms, they can call somebody up and go to the doctor and get it checked out right away. They don't have to wait, until they can afford it. So all of those types of things, and there's more in there, but yeah, that's the general picture.
so you feel like that's one of the main reasons that our chances of developing it is more uh is
Stress,
more, yeah, than
stress,
the white,
lifestyle.
our white peers.
I think, and I'm being a little bit measured because scientists, a good scientist is a humble scientist. Like we know it's a lot out there that we don't know. Um, I think that is a big part of the picture, and those tend to be things that are difficult to change. A lot of people do change them. You get a decent job, your family moves you up out of a neighborhood to a better neighborhood, maybe you get more education. Some of those things are changeable, um, but they tend to be big picture stuff. However, when it comes to Black folks culturally, right? I know we're not a monolith. We're all very different. We do share some cultural, traits across the diaspora. Um, th- Socioeconomics plays a role, and also our individual choices and how we manage our health also plays a big role. Yeah.
So what are some
And
things that you
yeah.
think that is it drinking? Is it smoking, or is it just I got the stress aspect.
Yeah, the stress is in there. You got the stress down. So everything everything that you can do to protect your heart also works to protect your brain.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
that's a great way to sum it up. So if eating healthier food, that has less salt, because we know that salt, is a challenge, that has less sugar. If those things are helpful for your heart, they're going to be also helpful for your brain. If you are overweight in a way that is problematic, because there's some very healthy bigger folks of size, and there's some very unhealthy skinny folks, right? So size
Right.
is not the only determinant. But if you are overweight in a way that is a challenge to your health, it's causing sleep apnea, it's putting you at risk of diabetes, it's making it difficult for you to exercise. If losing that
Do you
weight
have sleep
would take—
apnea?
why are you being shady, Renzo?
No, I was saying he said he was just
he
telling
said
me
he
that,
said why
he
you put my
overcame
business
it
out
though.
there?
So it's good that you said that.
So
Yeah,
what about football players? Like they got head impacts all day long.
yeah.
So is it a higher number with like those type of individuals also, or that doesn't have a ring?
So So I'm not— I understand the landscape of CTE generally, like because I read a lot of stuff. But what I don't know, so I'm not comfortable, saying definitively, is what the link is between folks who take a lot of head injuries. Football players are one of those are one of those groups, because we see them on TV, we know, but there's other folks who do that too. Boxers, soccer players who do headshots, all that, right? So
Right.
athletes who just have head involved sports, right? Um, what I don't know definitively is the link between all those repeated hits to the head, right? That may cause CTE, and whether or not that CTE is like by itself as a brain injury, or CTE also is related to Alzheimer's long term if they live long enough. I don't know that for a fact. I'd have to look that up. Yeah.
You said if they live long. You said if they live long.
I
I don't even
mean,
laugh,
Ain't
but
funny though.
I'm sorry.
So okay, Jamie, I got another question. Somebody told me to ask you was, how do you feel about the medication that they subscribe for dementia?
Okay, so I did actually— let me look it up, because I mean, not look it up. I have some notes on it because I had to look it up too. So we're really early, I'll say this, on a mass scale in terms of like what people have access to. We are still really early in the medication story around types of dementia, including Alzheimer's disease. And when I say that, what I mean is that the first thing your doctor tells you when you go to get assessed for Alzheimer's disease is not, we already have 5 drugs that can stop this in its tracks. We're not there yet, right? I think we have a lot of research going on that wants to move us in that direction, but I don't think we're there yet. A lot of the drugs that are early being tested to— not, again, you cannot reverse it, right? What we see right now is that you can do your best to prevent it. You can also do your best to delay the onset. Or if you've already been diagnosed, but it's in the really early stages, what we call like preclinical or mild cognitive impairment, right? So you just started forgetting stuff, but you're not impaired, most of your life, you can still do everything you do, right? Um, there are some drugs being tested that can essentially slow things down. So instead of having 10 years left before you lose all of your main function, maybe they're trying to give you 15 years, right? Um, we're still early on in that story. Most folks, I will say, most average everyday folks don't have access to those types of drugs that are just hitting the market right now and being
Why
tested right
why
now.
you why are they
Yeah.
super expensive or something?
They're super expensive. Yeah, for sure. Any new medical advancement is going to be super expensive. And we're not going to have any commentary on the current state of our government, but there are things happening in science related to public policy, government policy, that is slowing down our ability to kind of get new medications, and also just new science. So any new drug is going to be super expensive, right? Also, it takes 10 to 15 years sometimes from the time researchers are developing and testing a new drug to getting it, into what we call clinical trials, to like take it from, say, animals to humans, and then to have enough evidence to be able to take it to the government regulators, usually that's the FDA, and say, all right, this is safe enough, right, to start putting it out there. and then you got to market it to people. You got to let doctors know that it exists. You know what I mean? Like it's a huge, the pipeline is so long, right? To
So
get a new drug
how did
out
the
there.
COVID
Yeah.
vaccine get approved so fast? And Jamie, not to jump off subject, but that just intrigued me.
Okay, so I'm not a super COVID expert. I have one scientific publication on COVID, but I will say it's in a really great journal with a really nice, a really great team of colleagues. It's in JAMA. It's in the Journal of the American Medical Association. So, but it's not on the drug. It's actually on people's. Um, it's on people's scare, like people being scared of taking the vaccine. But
Right.
so the reason that the COVID-19 vaccine was able to be rolled out so quickly, the short of it, is that it was based on existing science. They did not start from scratch. Actually, there was a Black woman on the team right at the center of it. I don't have her name, but I can find it for you later. But yeah, Black women were right there at the forefront, working for the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, on the team that got that vaccine out there. But essentially, oops, there we go. Okay, sorry, I lost you for a minute. Essentially, we already had, uh, because COVID, by the way, it was not a new disease. We had seen other variations of COVID, right? That's why it was called 19, because we saw it in 19, but we've seen it in previous years. It just looked a little different. But essentially, we already had a blueprint for that vaccine from prior instances that were not global pandemics to work from, and so that sped things up, basically. Yeah, we weren't
Okay.
starting from
Okay.
scratch. Yeah, yeah.
So, when you hear about this disease and whatnot, what what actually happens to when it I think is what is it, death? So does the body forget to breathe, or what's well, how does it cause death?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so what's happening, I have to visualize it. What's happening in the brain, um, and I don't want to mispronounce all of them, but essentially there are different types of proteins. You measure protein, right? There are different types of proteins that build up in the brain, like plaque. You know what clogged arteries look like.
Right.
Right.
Imagine that, but like in the pathways of your brain, right? In the all the pathways, that send signals, your synapses, all that, right? In the neurons, the main blood vessels in your brain, they are getting clogged up just the way your arteries and your heart can get clogged, or going toward your heart can be clogged up, right?
Okay.
But they're getting clogged up with plaque. And so as they are getting clogged up with plaque, it's causing inflammation in the brain. And we know inflammation is a bad thing. Stress causes inflammation, sickness, causes inflammation. When you got the flu, you feel inflamed, all of that, right? That's why we have antihistamines, right? So when you have that plaque buildup or that protein buildup in the brain, you are disrupting the ability of those neurons to talk to one another
Mm.
and to carry out or to tell the body what to do. So, like, the brain has to tell the body to breathe, right? Like, we think it's a natural process, but it's
Right.
all kind of working together. That's why when someone experiences brain death, even though their organs are still functioning, right? But if you have
Right.
brain death, the body is not receiving the instructions, right? The lungs are not receiving the instructions to inflate. The heart is not receiving the instructions from the brain to beat. So at some point, somebody who is
Mm.
brain dead, they can only be kept alive by artificial means because the brain is not sending instructions, right? So what Alzheimer's disease is doing is it is impeding the ability of the brain to tell the body to function, to
Mm.
tell the
Oh
body
wow.
to do things like to talk, right? To breathe, stuff like that. And so eventually that buildup will become so severe over time. That's why it's a progressive disease. It gets worse over time. That functioning will get worse and worse and worse. It's also why we see people who have severe Alzheimer's disease, oftentimes older adults, will forget to eat, you know, because the brain is not even telling the body you're hungry. You know what I mean? They don't even crave that food anymore. They can see a
Yes.
plate of food and look right past
That's
it, even if they haven't eaten in
Mm.
days, right? So you see that a lot amongst like older adults, or like if you're at a memory care facility and you're like, why are they working? Why are these folks get on? They're not getting those instructions, those signals, right? And so yeah, and there's a lot of other things involved in that process too. But essentially, yeah, so your body starts to shut down because it's the system's no longer receiving instructions, and eventually your systems are going to shut down.
yeah.
That's scary. That's
Yeah.
deep.
That's
I mean,
scary.
because you figure like your
Yeah,
body
I
is
mean,
just
yeah,
forgetting to function.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
That's
That's
crazy.
deep. And in
you see
severe
us, you see
cases,
similar, yeah.
In
Go
severe
ahead.
cases, Jamie, have you seen, which I have personally seen, where a person goes into like a state of I can't explain it, but you know what I'm talking about,
Like mentally, like their mental stability, their
where they
mental,
just
like,
talking, they just talking like
yes,
memories and stuff like that, but it's just
yeah,
constant. It's just like
They don't shut up.
they just don't be quiet. Like you know what I'm saying? It's like a
Packing.
whole, and I've never seen anything like that. It was kind of traumatizing, but
yeah,
she actually passed away from it. But
Oh,
before she passed, there was a lot of suffering, and that was towards the end of it. So, actually, my people's mom passed away
yeah.
from dementia not too long ago, and that's the state that she was in before she passed. So, she was really
yeah,
broken up about it, and just felt like her mom did a lot of suffering that could have been prevented.
yeah.
So, are you familiar with that?
Yes, I haven't seen it much up close, but I'm familiar with it as a concept. And
Okay,
what I'll say is, when you talk to people like when you talk to family members of people with any type of dementia, what you'll often hear them say is like, I know my mom is still in there, or I know my dad or my or whoever is still in there, because they'll have flashes of senility, they'll have flashes of
exactly,
recognizing you,
exactly.
or saying something coherent, and you're like, oh, you're in there, but then it could be gone, right? Then it's
Right,
gone. And
right.
so it's almost like little breakthrough moments where that person's real, like, they essentially, this is a person who is fighting they're fighting their own brain to try to get out something that is recognizable. So just because your brain isn't processing words like it's supposed to, right? Because of these disruptions of the signals in your brain, and the neurons in your brain. That doesn't mean that you stop understanding or hearing. You can still smell, you can still hear, you hear you hear conversations happening around you, and you may want to jump in. But then when you open your mouth, your brain is not communicating with your tongue, right? To say the
Man,
things that you actually want to say.
That's deep.
It's
yeah,
almost it's like clipping the wire, you know what I mean? So there's a disconnect, right, between what you're trying to get out and then what you can do. And so when you're hearing people, sometimes, at least not all, sometimes when you're hearing people babble or try to like say things but it's nonsensical, they might
yeah.
still be in, who they are might still be in there. They're still hearing you talk
She she
about
she
them and
she
around
actually,
them. Yeah,
not to cut you off, but she actually
yeah, yeah,
she experienced that, Jamie. She said
yeah.
like, sometimes through all the gibberish, she would just say something cognitive. She would say
Mhm.
something, to let her know she was still in there, but then she would go
Yeah.
right back to the other state.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I had it my grandmother was like that. She died back in 2018, and there was just something about my voice. I think that's because I was like her only granddaughter, and we she was my OG. We spent a ton of time together, over my life. But there was just something about my voice. I would come home from college, I would come home from grad school, I would come home all these different points in my life before she passed. And she could not recognize anybody sometimes, but then I would come home. She hadn't seen me in 6 months, and she would say my name immediately, right?
Mm.
So you
Yeah,
never know what those triggers are. And I said, must be me. I don't know. She never forgot me. I felt very grateful for that. But you never know what those triggers are that will allow people to like bypass what's happening and be able to like just have a moment, right? A moment where they're there with you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what's up.
That's. I wanted to ask you as well, Jamie. Are you familiar with this? Because I know we discussing brain health and dementia with African Americans, just people in general over 50. But I seen a thing where
Hmm.
it says strokes in people under 50 are on the rise due to a
Yes.
surge in high blood pressure, obesity,
Yep.
diabetes, and cholesterol. And then it said coupled with s- a lazy lifestyle, basically, and
Hmm.
substance
Yeah.
abuse. And it says that the
Sedentary. Yep.
substance, these
Yep.
things cause your arteries to harden. So is that what you was talking about
Mhm.
as well?
Yeah, essentially, right? Like it's not a hardening, but yes, essentially, right? And so, earlier when I said anything you can do that's good for your heart will also be good for your brain, it's very similar with, these other conditions that we're talking about: hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol. The body is a system, right? So you can't abuse a part of the system over here on the left and not think you're not going to experience the consequences eventually somewhere on the right. You know what I mean? Like we are one body, and so if you abuse your liver, with drinking a lot, at some point that's going to, impact maybe your blood pressure or impact your inflammation or impact your ability to process toxins, whatever the case may be. It's going to affect you somewhere else, right? And I think what ties all of these to, like, y'all were asking earlier about like why is it that black and brown cases of dementia and some of these things, um, is because these are all considered what we call vascular diseases, right? So hypertension, diabetes, and high cholesterol, specifically, those three are vascular diseases. They're going to be things that involve the blood vessels, right? And putting either pressure on the blood vessels, think high blood pressure, right? You putting too much pressure on your blood vessels, right? Or you're narrowing your blood vessels. That's what cholesterol does. It clogs them up so that blood has less space to get through, right? And eventually shut down. And if you get a real clog, that's a stroke, right? Because now and so, and then you've got diabetes, which is a metabolic disease, but also has a lot of connection, a lot of implication for your blood vessels, right? And so these vascular diseases, there's a lot of folks in this country who have two or three. They don't just have one. Imagine the strain that that's putting on the body, right? The body is a system. And so all of that strain on the body is also putting stress on the brain. And so the people who are suffering and trying to manage these diseases when they're younger, they're also stealing some functionality and time away from their brain health as they get older, if that makes
Damn.
sense.
Man. So do you think? My bad, not to cut you off. But
No,
so do
Oh,
you
yeah.
think us as African Americans, you know how we like fried food and we like, you know what I mean, bacon fat and
We
all
got some
that type of
things.
stuff. So is that one of the reasons why we more likely to get it than because of our diet?
I think that, yes. So when we talk about how like lifestyle is 75%, I think that
Yeah,
that's a big picture. And like, like you said, not all black folks like fried food, not, but there are some traditions that, especially if you were either raised in the South, you had grandparents, parents raised in the South, if you were raised around, especially older
yeah,
generations,
yeah. We doing percentages,
you
Jamie.
know,
85% of black people
set,
like fried
yeah.
food. You know what I mean?
I mean everybody
I'm
like
gonna need to
fried
see,
food.
I'm gonna need to see
I
this. I'm
mean,
gonna need to see the source on that. I'm gonna see the source on that. But it's delicious, right? And so it's not that you can't have something delicious, but it's like, to what degree is it a regular part of your diet, right? Like, are you reaching for
Yeah,
it
yeah,
moderation.
yeah,
every
yeah.
Wednesday? Every Wednesday and Friday is the fish fry or whatever, or is it like a treat? You know what I mean? And so there are some cultural traditions around food, things like that, that do put us at a higher risk factor for, because these things are not, when you break it down, you're talking about macronutrients, you're talking about salt, you're talking about sugar, you're talking about fat. You're talking about the type, the stuff that goes into these delicious foods is also the stuff that, puts you at risk for higher cholesterol, you know what I mean, or raises your blood pressure if you're doing it too much, right? And so the food is connected. Yeah, it's one thing. It's not the only thing, but it's one thing.
Mm.
Yeah, that is wild that the stuff you eat during your life later on in life can affect your brain health.
Yeah,
It's
and
scary,
honestly, it's
bro.
not that late. We're
This
seeing it
whole
earlier. We're
conversation
seeing it
got my
earlier.
whole
See
mindset.
you over there nervous,
Yeah, nah, it's just like you said. It's like the way
Wait,
it'll
Bam said
take
I'm
you
about to
out,
start. Bam said
man.
I'm about to eat a salad right now.
right? Right. So it's like it'll take you out later, it's just so many variables going on. It's just
Yeah,
like, man,
yeah, yeah.
could it be me? Then they say it's higher in black people, and it's just that's
We 2 to 3 times more susceptible to it than
yeah.
white people, man. So that's a big deal, man.
It's like so if a person is a vegetarian and they eat good, they still they number still high. So what it sounds like to me is that they're not really doing the homework on this actually, but it's more so cancer and blood pressure and all that other stuff. Whereas the brain is like she said, when you brain dead, that's it.
That's it. That's the most powerful thing.
But the body's still going because it's stuck in that mold. The heart's still beating and all that. But it's like once the brain stops, that's it. There's no coming back from like a scratch. I mean, saying something on the head. That's
I'm gonna diagnose this shit, Jamie. Look,
fine.
basically in life, try to have a good diet. If you going through a lot of stuff, you know what I mean, people be fucked up out here. That's excuse my language. That's part of life.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
let it stress you out to the point where you know what I'm saying. You holding all that in because that's a
yeah,
factor. Your stress level,
But
your
yes,
diet.
but we talk about it all the time, mental health. Because me and you, okay, is somebody else who might not
Well,
have
I ain't okay.
they might not have that willpower, you know what I'm saying? It's like what she's saying is like, is it funding? Is it what is it? Could you give us any insight? Is it they need more money on it or do they
Yeah, basically what he's saying is
yeah,
what is can they do to fix it? Like you know what I mean to try to
to
go in
get
the
more
right
research?
direction.
Like
Yeah,
yeah.
more research need to be
So yeah,
had about it.
yeah, yeah. For sure. And also, I don't want to victim blame, so there's a lot of folks who, despite their best efforts, they just are where they are right now. And we hope they're not going to be there forever. We hope bad times don't last.
right.
But sometimes you're just, you're in a situation, you're in stress, right? You lost your job or you having trouble with your house and your kids are sick or they're whatever is happening, that's life, and it's difficult when you're in that survival mode, for people to be like, well, let me take a deep breath, let me try to manage my stress, right? They're just trying to get through. But the key is like once you are on the other side and hopefully you make it onto the other side, then it's like, how can I recalibrate? How can I make sure that I'm not carrying that trauma with me so that I'm
Right.
always in the fight or flight mode, right? Because that's what's raising your inflammation. That's what's keeping your blood pressure high. You can never get back down to baseline. Right. And that also, is connected to, y'all talking about mental health. But to your point, there's a lot that we can do. And that's why I want to say, like, this is, especially when we're talking about all these vascular diseases, the diabetes, the hypertension. Yes, it's related to and it contributes to dementia, but there's so much we can do at any point to like try to change the trajectory, of maybe some early life acting up, some early life decisions, right? We can at any point we can change some stuff. Some of the things that have worked have been trying to and there's been a lot of efforts in different cities doing this, but reaching out to folks where they are. So for example, some of the most popular programs around helping black men with hypertension have been like barbershop programs, because you have to think like, where are we going to find a decent number of black men on any given Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? We might be able to catch them at the barbershop, right? Not all of them, but everybody needs to line up eventually, right? And so a lot of programs have been kind of community based. All right. Bam is proving me wrong in real time, y'all. Um, you know, I don't know. We're gonna have to find you somewhere else, man. We're gonna have to find you somewhere else.
You said you gotta find
But they
some.
Yeah,
but no,
we got
we've seen a
We sorry,
lot,
we
we've seen a
listening.
lot of
all right,
success.
we
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we've seen a lot of success trying to reach people out where they are in the community, you know what I mean? And to educate them. Because one of the things that I know, like when I go to Costco, when I go to Sam's Club, whatever, I know I can pick up a pack of anything, turn it over. I can read the nutrition label and that means something to me. Like when I see the percentage of sodium on the back, when I see how much fiber or sugar protein is in something, I can make some decisions about whether I want to buy that thing and eat that thing, bring it home based on that. But a lot of people actually don't have that knowledge. That's not something we teach in school typically, right? Like if in a way that education is a privilege. You know what I mean? Like being able to make decisions, make better decisions for your health, being able to pick up, a package of food or be out and look at a menu and make a better decision for your health. That's a privilege, right?
Right, right,
That
right.
not
right.
everybody
But
not
see,
everybody has that kind of education. Yeah.
but Jamie, it's like when you at the grocery store, you making life decisions. They may only have $50,
Right.
so they figure they
Yeah,
can get
Right.
a gang of ramen noodles
Yeah.
versus getting salad. It's more expensive to eat
Mhm.
healthy versus just going to grab something that's going to get you
Yep.
through the night or through the week or through the month. You know what I'm saying? That's another thing we
that's why
That
our
no,
people.
you're
right.
that's
It's
that's
we
the
don't look.
socioeconomic
A lot
angle
of us
that
not
Renzo was
looking
talking about.
at
Yeah.
the back of the meats and
Yeah,
now they got fake meat
Right.
at Walmart. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? You got fake ice
Mhm.
cream. You know,
No.
it's a lot of
Yeah.
things that's not real that you need to look and
Yeah.
see. You know what I mean? You may be allergic to something that they putting in this stuff in you, and you ain't knowing.
You know, next thing you know, you
Yeah.
crazy.
You wake up dead.
But you know what? That's the socioeconomic angle that y'all were talking about early on. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the what is constraining your decisions, right? All things, yeah. So, you may not even have the resources to make the best decision for you, So yeah,
Okay,
you just gave
I
the
got a
perfect
question
example.
for you, Jamie. What made you want to study dementia?
So actually, this is a pretty recent like turn into dementia. I've known you obviously all my life, and I started out studying Black men's health. I wrote my dissertation about Black men and cancer prevention, and so for about maybe like 8 to 10 years, I almost exclusively studied Black men's health, like Black men cancer, Black men talking to their doctors, how to do that more effectively, a little bit of diabetes work, and so very recently, um,
She
we were
reveals
faced
like black,
with,
don't talk about
essentially.
black people.
I want to.
Mm.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure. We were faced with like basically cuts to science. The work that we were doing was defunded by our current situation. And we had to make a pivot to a different area, the group that I work with. And so we said, where's the money? Because at the end of the day, people care about money. Science, folks in science care about money too. And money rules the day. And so we were like, where is there still money to do good research that could help Black and brown people? So the group that I'm working with, which is actually a wonderful group called Healthier Black Elders in Flint, Michigan. Shout out to them. We put our proposal together. We said, can we kind of pivot into this area? Can we learn about it, but can we also teach the community about it as we're learning? And so that's what we're doing. We're funded by the Michigan Health Endowment Fund right now for the next couple of years to actually create community curriculum, community resources to teach folks in Flint about brain health. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
That's
but
that's that's
yeah.
what's up.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's
that's
but it's
dope.
it's
That's
pretty
dope.
it's pretty it's pretty pretty recent for me. So I'm still young in the dementia game. You know what they say.
Well, we definitely appreciate,
Exactly.
sharing the knowledge that you do have with us. I also want to know, are you done with school? Like, are you ever going to go back study some more stuff? Because I know you got a lot of years of school under your belt.
Got a lot of letters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a
You got a
lot of
lot of
letters.
letters.
But
Renzo,
that's
when I
good
tell
though.
you I
Clock.
would
What is
never
it?
go back.
Clock that T.
Clock it.
You know the clock the
Oh,
T.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it, Bam. You're not crazy. I've seen it. Uh, when I tell you honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I would never go back to school. Like, I would never
okay,
do it
okay.
again. And I am a professor, so I teach graduate students every week. Okay, so I'm an educator, but I would never go back and sit on the other side. Yeah, not to pay tuition and do it. I do take continuing education. I read, I write science, I do all the things. I would never go back and get another degree. I'm good. I'm good on it. Yeah,
Gee, wow.
it's
Okay.
it's a
I,
lot. It
I
took
want you to share.
it took me 10 years. I'm good. Yeah.
I wanted you to share. I know the story because you told me about it when you were studying abroad in South America, and you got attacked by some wild dogs. You said.
Why you gotta bring that up? Okay, yes, this was so many years ago, y'all. We're talking about like 2003. Yeah, about 2003, 2004. But yeah, so this was like undergrad. But yes, I did study abroad in Ecuador, Quito, Ecuador. And at that, it does not look like Quito today. I don't know what's going on today, but back then, beautiful country. I was doing a Spanish language immersion program for like 3 months. I was living with a family, so I was like a true exchange student, except there was no exchange. And I was out jogging because back then I ran. I don't run anymore. I don't have those kind of knees. But back then I still had good knees, and I was jogging like around my little Ecuadorian neighborhood. And the way that in other countries are set up differently, the way that they were set up there at that time, they had like these big, like almost like guard walls, solid concrete. So you can't really see. It's like concrete wall. You jog by concrete wall. You can't really see what's coming up on the other side of the wall, right? And so I jogged by a house that had these big concrete walls and no gate. And it was like two, I don't even know if they were like the equivalent of like US pitties or Dobermans or what, but it was two big black dogs that saw me run by and started chasing me. When I
Black.
tell you I ran for my life, I ran for my life. And thankfully I ran high school track. So I was only a few years out of my track years. Okay. I ran for my life. They got me on the ankle. Okay. And I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember if I
Hey,
kicked them off. I don't know. But they got me.
She said it
They got
got
me on
me.
the ankle. But I kept going. I made it to safety, or they just was like, you know what, we're not chasing this girl
she kicked it
two,
to
three
another
miles.
kid.
Listen, listen, I
Run
was
for
not
it.
going out in another country. My parents would have killed me twice. I was not going out in another country. So I made it, but
Oh
I did have
God.
this
Yeah, I
like,
just remember you calling
yeah,
home and telling us, and I was like, wow. First of all, what is she doing in South America? I forgot you were studying,
yeah,
and you said it was like a pack of wild dogs. I've always pictured that in my
man.
head. It's crazy, man. But
I
but I,
I don't know if it was 2 or 5. Honestly, I couldn't look back. I just had I just had to So I
Oh
still
God.
like 20 years later, I still have a scar on my ankle to this day where they got me because
She
also
said
then I
he
had to
got me.
decide like, do I want to go to a hospital in, in Ecuador? That's a whole nother risk right there. So
yeah, that
I
might
did
be more
the
dangerous than the
She
dogs.
didn't want
listen.
a dog bite came out with the
I,
goddamn.
Yeah, it was like that amputate.
exactly.
You gotta
I didn't
amputate.
want to I didn't want to risk it. I
You gotta
said
suck
just
this.
wrap me up. Just wrap me up, and yeah. So I didn't end up going to the hospital. I just came home with a jagged scar and I was happy to be alive.
Well, Jamie, we really appreciate you, Dr. Jamie Mitchell, enlightening us on dementia and brain health. Hopefully, a lot of people will look at this and just kind of think about their lifestyle and think about their
Yeah.
loved ones and watch for early symptoms and early signs of it. And we just appreciate you blessing us with your
I got a
Oh, I
secret.
appreciate that.
knowledge.
You got
I
a
got
secret?
sometimers. I be
But
Oh
forgetting
my
shit
God.
sometimes. I do,
Hey,
man.
would you
That's why
I
I
know
wanted to know if there's anything, like I get in the car or something, like, God damn it,
yeah,
my phone or,
I
or,
be
or,
forgetting
or
people's
something.
names.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I be forgetting people's
Yeah.
names.
I do. I
But
do.
we ain't gonna
can
hold
I
you.
can no, no, you're fine. I know y'all are wrapping up. Can I just throw in one little last thing that I just did some research just for this, and I want to, make sure y'all have it just in case you're curious about it.
Of course, the floor is
So
yours.
okay, I'm gonna be real quick. I know you had previous guests that talked about GLP-1s or like, weight loss drugs, Ozempics, all those, right? And so
Right.
I was studying as, as professors do, right? I was watching your past episode. I saw your lovely guest and they were talking about it. So I wanted to look it up. And it turns out there's some really like fresh, hot off the press 2026, 2025 research that just came out that is testing out some of these drugs and how they might actually help Alzheimer's disease later on. And so I actually found a study. I'll send it to y'all afterwards if you want to read it for yourself. But it's a huge study, 85,000 people and 85,000 older adults with type 2 diabetes. And they found that taking some of these newer generation drugs that also obviously were originally formulated for folks who were diabetic or pre-diabetic, right? That the folks who took those drugs in this big study had a 31% lower risk of developing dementia over time than the people who didn't take them. So when I say
Oh,
that there are new things on the horizon, that we don't know about just yet. We think about like, oh, these drugs, these Wegovy's and Ozempics and GLP-1, all the different class of what we call GLP-1s, that they're just for people who are vain or who want to lose weight. That's not true. They're actually operating in the body in different ways that we are still studying. But the same reason that they cause weight loss, changing the metabolism, helping people with their hunger cues, but they're also doing things like reducing inflammation, right?
Mm.
And so that same inflammation, that puffiness that your body is going through, that's not, all of that, if they're reducing that in your knees, they're also reducing it in your brain. And so some of this new science that's coming out is really exciting. And I'm going to be following it, but just know that, there's so much more that we're going to learn about brain health and even how some of these drugs that seem like that folks may be taking them for whatever reason they're taking them, they actually may be having some very positive side effects. And there's some really good science happening right now that's studying it. So I just want to leave y'all with that little nugget of hope that
oh,
there's
we
some new
Oh,
we
stuff
we
coming out.
definitely appreciate
Yeah.
it,
for
and
sure.
we'll pass it on
Yeah.
to her, so maybe
And
she
I'll
can
send you the
pass it
study.
on
I'll send
to
you the study.
people that she
Well,
worked with. Yeah,
but if you ever
Yeah.
want to come back and bless us with some more knowledge about whatever, like I said, that little
I'll
tidbit
come
was great.
back.
yeah, exactly.
That was
I'd
just
love
on
to come
such a.
back.
Even though you scared the dickens out of me, I got
Oh my
you
You
know
over
gosh.
here shook,
I
man.
was
I
shook,
was not
man.
here to scare you, man. I'm here to Bam, I'm here to inspire you. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because to be honest with you, like I said, I know we wrapping up, but I have the means to be able to look at it and be like, nah, this ain't no good for me, or
Yeah.
like, this is good for me, but this, you know, I will,
Well, you know what
I,
what
Be
the
more
older
yeah,
folks used to
yeah,
say?
so, you know,
You know what the older
calorie
folks used to
counting
say,
and
Bam? They
what's
said,
yeah.
all that.
yeah.
So,
But you know what the older folks used to say, Bam? They used to say, "When you know better, you do better," right? So
exactly,
we can only
Exactly,
hope that
that's
exactly,
it.
by
exactly.
That's it.
by educating folks, by giving them the tools that they will try to put that into practice. That's all we can do.
That's it.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. All right, we're gonna let you get up out of here. We're gonna get up out of here. We love you. We so proud of you. And we will see you in a minute,
We
Jay.
clocking the T for you, baby
Okay.
girl.
Straight like that.
Straight like that.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.
Peace. Do, 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 do.
Should I click off?
And 1,
4, 3,
2,
2, 1.
1.
Sorry.
Yeah, that